Always remember, your focus determines your reality.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of Middle-earth? Ryan the Cyber Hobbit here. Time for another statue unboxing. This is the Witch-King of Angmar by Weta Workshop. This is from their Figures of Fandom series, a line of 1/8 scale statues made from high-quality PVC instead of their typical polystone. And because of that, it comes at a much cheaper price than what they typically charge for a statue of this size. But as far as I know, these are actually the only statues they offer at the 1/8 scale, though they do say it's approximate. This guy costs $119, which I think is really cheap for a Weta Workshop statue. For example, the little guy to the left of him, the miniature Ringwraith statue, at the time of purchase cost me $99. Though Weta recently decided to raise their prices a little bit, so now he's actually sold for $119. So basically, both of these statues are $119, which is pretty crazy to me considering the statue to the right, the 1/6 scale Ringwraith of Mordor, is now being sold for $399. That's $50 more than what I paid. What the? I guess Weta wasn't kidding when they said they were raising the prices. Anyway, as you can tell, the Figures of Fandom comes with a pretty cool looking box that allows you to see into it. And enough of the rotating box, let's get on with the unboxing. I will admit, I was a little bit confused on how you open this box. And there appears to be a pretty cool looking map on the inside of the box. I thought about cutting them, but I recommend to actually just unwind these little ties, in case you ever need to transport this guy again. And now that he's free of his plastic prison, taking a closer look, I actually think this is pretty impressive. I personally would have never guessed this was made from a different material than polystone. It looks to be on par with the quality of their other statues. It is a bit more reflective, but I think that's probably just the paint. It does have a different feel to it, and I'm not really sure if things like these little spikes would be easy to break off. They feel like they might, but then again, I would assume that it would be the same for a polystone statue. Maybe only something made in metal might be a little safer. The sculpting job looks pretty good. Very nice paint job going on here. I really like the pose they chose for this guy. The way the clothing really gives you a sense of movement. It's a little bit more fun than just standing still. I really like his in-action mace. That's more than likely about to be swung at Eowyn. I really like the way they hid that it's actually attached to the back of his clothes to give it a little bit more support than just the chain itself. The sculpting of the fabric looks pretty good. You can actually see all the little clothing fibers. I did notice though that since this is PVC, it does have a little bit of a give to it. You can actually press the clothing in a little bit. I mean, this is plastic, so I guess this is a little bit expected. Very interesting though. And I noticed here that he actually has his scabbard kind of hidden under his clothes. Starts here and then runs all the way down towards the right here. And sticking out the bottom. The secret letter is L. I've got to say my least favorite part is definitely the fire. I mean, I guess it looks like fire, but not a big fan. Got his shiny armored leg poking out right here. Pretty good sculpture. And his foot, or sabaton. Yeah, if I could change one thing, it would definitely be the fire. I've never really been a big fan of fire in any statue. I mean, maybe if it had some like LEDs inside glowing, but that's just isn't my thing. I also noticed on the base, it looks like there's some kind of maybe paint marks. Not really sure what this is. That's definitely a little disappointing. It does seem to run basically the entire circumference of the base. Maybe this could be fixed with a little do-it-yourself paint, but I'll probably leave it just as is. Doesn't bother me too much, but it is something to note. Also, inside the box was this flame that you're supposed to put on his sword. And I guess this is a good time to point out that the sword does seem a little bit flimsy. Seems like that might easily break. Just have to be pretty careful with that. Anyway, the flame slides on pretty easily. Though, once it's on, I gotta say I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I know you're supposed to have it on here to complete the piece, but I think I may end up just going without it. Yeah, I think this looks much better. Besides, I don't really remember him having a flaming sword in the movie. So another thing that I noticed is that because this is PVC and plastic, it's actually very light, so you can easily just sort of spin the piece. I mean, obviously don't get carried away like how I am here, but you could definitely not do this with any of their other statues. And if you're curious, there is basically nothing on the bottom. And now let's do some comparisons to the other ring wraiths. Seeing them all next to each other, it's kind of really hard to tell that this is PVC, but maybe that's just me. So the fabric, I think honestly looks a little bit better than the polystone figure. What do you think? Let me know which one you think is better in the comments. And here's a little comparison to the 1/4 scale helmet that Weta makes. The helmet is metal, so keep in mind you're comparing metal to a PVC plastic, but I think they're both pretty good looking. Obviously the metal one is a bit better, as it has some rust on it that you can see, but still a really good job, I think. And comparing the miniature statue, which again, remember both of these statues cost exactly the same. I personally think the Figures of Fandom piece is just a much better deal and a much better looking piece. I do think the miniature statue does have some nice highlighting in the paint job, and it also might be a bit darker, but I think I'm still leaning towards the Figures of Fandom piece. The fabric just looks much better in my opinion. So I've got to say, if I had to pick between the miniature and the Figures of Fandom, I think there's no doubt that I would pick the Figures of Fandom piece. It's a much better dynamic pose, definitely more fun, even if I'm not really a big fan of the fire. It's just hands down the better looking piece. I still can't believe they're the same price. I did try to clean up the base a little bit with the paper towel, but I couldn't really seem to make that big of a difference. Whatever's on there just already seems to be on there. Maybe one day I'll fix this with some paint. So in summary, I think this might be the best quality for the price piece that I own from Weta Workshop. I mean, there's really no denying that it stands up to both of these statues that you see to the left and the right. And I still can't believe that the one on the left cost the same price as this. If it wasn't for the fire, I might even say that this is a better piece than the 1/6 scale statue on the right. I mean, it definitely is a bit lighter than both of these statues. It has definitely a more of a gray look to it, but I really don't mind that at all. I really think it makes up a lot of slack with its really dynamic and action-packed pose. So what do you think? Could you tell this was made with plastic? If you would have told me it was made with polystone, I would have believed you. So far, I'm very impressed with the Figures of Fandom line. Definitely worth the money in my opinion. I've already pre-ordered the new Aragorn as well as the Lurtz figure that are still coming out. So if you want to see an unboxing of those, be sure you're subscribed. So I think that about wraps up this video. If you guys liked it, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a like. That tells YouTube to show it to more people, which in turn helps out the channel. So that's it. Have a great Wednesday. Till next time. Bye-bye.